They called me just the backup plan, but still expected me to pay their bills. Then I found out the will left everything to my sister, including the house I helped renovate. 2 months later, Mom texted, "Mortgage is due." Then I sent her a link to a budgeting app. I, 34M, was the backup plan who paid for everything until I wasn't. I always knew where I stood. It wasn't something anyone said outright until the very end, but you can feel it in 1,000 small ways over the years. The way Mom's face would light up when my sister walked into a room versus the polite smile I got. The way family stories always centered on her accomplishments while mine were footnotes. The way I was always the one called when something needed fixing, paying, or handling, but never the one invited to just exist. My sister was the golden child, beautiful, charismatic, creative. She could walk into a room and own it. I was the responsible one, the boring one. The one with the stable job in IT who showed up when called and never caused drama. And for 34 years I accepted this role because I thought that's what family meant. You show up, you help, you don't keep score. The wake-up call came in stages, like a slowly developing photograph revealing something ugly you'd been staring at all along. It started 8 years ago when Dad got sick. Cancer. The aggressive kind that doesn't negotiate. Mom was a mess, understandably. And my sister lived 3 states away pursuing her dream of being a fashion designer. Someone needed to handle things. I took family leave from work. I drove Dad to appointments, sat through the worst conversations about treatment options and mortality, helped Mom navigate insurance paperwork that seemed designed to break people when they were already broken. My sister visited twice during the whole ordeal. Both times she swept in like a visiting celebrity, made Dad laugh with stories about her life in the city, cried beautifully at his bedside, then left before anything got too difficult. Dad loved those visits. His face transformed when she called. When I suggested she might come more often, Mom told me not to be selfish, that my sister had her own life and career to think about. I was local. It made sense for me to handle things. Dad died on a Tuesday. I was holding his hand. My sister was at a gallery opening for one of her friends. She made it back for the funeral and gave a eulogy that had everyone in tears. People told her how strong she was, how beautiful her words were. 3 people thanked me for handling the arrangements. After Dad died, Mom started declining. Nothing medical at first, just the kind of fading that happens when half of you is gone. The house felt too big for her. Things started breaking down. The furnace died that first winter. Then the roof started leaking. The kitchen cabinets were falling apart, installed sometime in the 70s and held together mostly by paint and habit. I helped, because that's what you do. I paid for the new furnace when Mom's savings couldn't cover it, $12,000 that maxed out one of my credit cards. I told myself it was an investment in her comfort, in keeping her in the home she loved. My sister sent flowers and a card about being sorry she couldn't help financially. The roof was another $8,000. I financed it through a home improvement loan since my credit cards were still recovering. Mom cried and thanked me, said she didn't know what she'd do without me. Said I was her rock. Then came the kitchen renovation. Mom mentioned wanting to update it, something about making the house feel alive again. My sister jumped on the idea during one of her quarterly phone calls, started sending Pinterest boards and design ideas. Got Mom all excited about farmhouse sinks and open shelving. I should have seen it then, should have recognized the pattern. But I was still operating under the old rules, the ones where family helps family and you don't question it. I spent $35,000 over 6 months gutting and renovating that kitchen. I did a lot of the labor myself to save money, ripped out cabinets, installed new ones, learned to tile backsplashes from YouTube videos. My sister picked out all the finishes, sent links to the expensive fixtures she thought would look best. Mom was thrilled with the results. My sister posted photos on Instagram, talking about the beautiful renovation at her family home, getting hundreds of likes. I wasn't tagged. The comment came during Thanksgiving 2 years ago. We were all in that renovated kitchen, Mom and my sister cooking together, laughing over wine while I fixed the garbage disposal that had stopped working. My girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, was helping set the table. Mom said something about how lucky she was to have both her children, how they each brought something special to her life. My sister laughed and said, yeah, she brought the fun and creativity, while I brought the checkbook and the toolbox. She said it lightly, jokingly, and Mom laughed too. Then my sister added, almost as an afterthought, that it was good Mom had me as the backup plan when the exciting kid couldn't be around. The backup plan. Everyone laughed. My girlfriend looked uncomfortable. I smiled and made some self-deprecating joke because that's what you do, right? You don't make Thanksgiving awkward. You don't cause scenes. But that phrase burrowed into my brain like a parasite. The backup plan. The reliable, boring ATM backup plan. I started noticing more after that. How my sister would call mom daily but would go weeks without texting me. How mom would mention needing things fixed or paid for, but never just called to see how I was doing. How every family gathering centered on my sister's latest project or adventure, while my promotion at work or my hobbies were polite smile territory. My girlfriend noticed too. She started asking questions I'd been avoiding. Why was I the only one contributing financially? Why was my sister's career precious, but mine was just expected? Why did I accept being treated like a utility? We broke up 6 months later. She said she loved me but couldn't watch me set myself on fire to keep people warm who wouldn't piss on me if I was burning. Her words. They hurt because they were true. Mom's health started failing last year. Heart problems, chronic issues that required monitoring and care. Once again, I rearranged my life. I started working remote 3 days a week so I could check on her. I hired a part-time nurse with money from my savings. I handled medications, doctor appointments, dietary restrictions. My sister called frequently, sent care packages of fancy teas and inspirational books. Mom treasured every package, displayed them like sacred objects. The nurse I paid for was just expected. During one of my sister's rare visits, Mom pulled us both aside, said she needed to talk about the future, about her will. She'd been putting it off because thinking about death was hard, but her doctor had scared her straight. She wanted us to know that she'd tried to be fair, that the house would go to my sister, because my sister had always loved it more, had so many memories there. Plus I had my own condo, so I didn't need it. Her retirement accounts would be split between us, though most had been depleted by my medical expenses and living costs. My sister hugged her, crying, thanking her. Said she'd take such good care of the house, preserve all the memories. I sat there doing math in my head. The house that I'd put nearly $60,000 into over the years. The house whose value I'd personally increased by at least $100,000 through renovations and repairs. Going entirely to my sister, while I got half of maybe $30,000 in retirement accounts. Mom asked if I was okay with it. What was I supposed to say? Make a scene while she was sick? Demand she change it? Tell her I'd kept receipts? I said it was her decision to make. She looked relieved. Mom died 4 months ago. Heart attack? Sudden but not entirely unexpected given her condition. I was at work. My sister was in New York at Fashion Week. I handled the funeral arrangements again. My sister gave another beautiful eulogy. The will reading was exactly what Mom had outlined. The house to my sister. The retirement accounts split between us. I got $18,000 after taxes and fees. My sister got the house worth about $450,000, with a mortgage of $90,000 still on it. The mortgage I'd been helping pay for the last 3 years, contributing $1,000 a month when Mom's fixed income couldn't cover it. My sister hugged me after the reading, said she knew the house meant a lot to both of us, but she'd make sure to honor Mom's memory there. Said I was welcome to visit anytime. Said she'd probably rent it out since she was still based in New York. Use the income to fund her design business that still hadn't turned profitable. I asked about the mortgage. She waved it off, said she'd figure it out. The rental income would cover it. The first text came 6 weeks later. My sister saying the mortgage was due and she was short this month, still getting the rental situation sorted out. Could I spot her just this once? I didn't respond immediately. I was sitting in my condo looking at my credit card statements, my bank balance still recovering from years of playing family ATM. Looking at my empty guest room that would stay empty because my ex had been right, I'd chosen being used over being loved. My sister texted again. Then Mom's old phone number. She'd kept Mom's cell active. Texted from it saying, mortgage is due, with a crying emoji. Using our dead mother's phone to guilt me into paying for her inheritance. Something crystallized in that moment. Something that had been building for years through every dismissed accomplishment, every expectation, every time I was the backup plan but first string wallet. I opened my laptop and spent 20 minutes researching. Found the perfect response. I texted back a single link. It was to a budgeting app, highly rated, free to download. Sent it to both her number and Mom's old phone. Then I added, this should help you manage your expenses now that you're a homeowner. Congratulations on your inheritance. My phone exploded. Calls, texts, voicemails. How could I be so cruel? After everything Mom did for me? Family helps family. This was just temporary. Did I want to see her lose the house? I blocked Mom's old number. Couldn't stomach her using it anymore. To my sister's number? I sent one more message. I've helped enough. You called me the backup plan. Backup plans don't pay for the starting player's equipment. Good luck with your investment property. Then I blocked her too. Update 1. The flying monkeys arrived within days. Aunts, uncles, family friends, all with the same script. How could I abandon my sister in her time of need? Didn't I care about family? Mom would be so disappointed. I started asking them questions in return. Did they know I'd spent over $60,000 on that house? That I'd been paying part of the mortgage for 3 years? That my sister made that backup plan comment? And everyone laughed? Most hadn't known. Some backpedaled. A few got angry at me anyway because I was disrupting the family narrative where I was the dependable one who helped without complaint. My uncle, Dad's brother, was the only one who got it. He called and listened to the whole story without interrupting. At the end, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said Dad would have been furious if he'd known how things were divided. Said Dad always worried that Mom favored my sister too obviously. That I was being taken for granted. That call broke something open in me. I cried for the first time since Mom died. Not for her, but for Dad. For the fact that he'd seen it too and felt helpless to fix it. My uncle asked if I needed anything. I said no, I was okay. He said he was proud of me for finally setting boundaries, even if it was messy. We talked for 2 hours. He told me stories about Dad I'd never heard. About how Dad had wanted to make things more equitable, but Mom had always shut it down. Said I didn't need as much help because I was stable and responsible. Dad had apparently started a savings account for me separately. Something he'd mentioned to my uncle but never formalized before he got sick. Nothing came of it, probably got absorbed into medical bills, but knowing he'd tried meant everything. Update 2. 2 months in, my sister's texts started coming from different numbers. Friends' phones. She'd burned through her flying monkeys and moved to guerrilla tactics. The messages were getting desperate. She'd found renters, but they'd fallen through. The market was bad. She was trying but needed just a little help to bridge the gap. Surely I didn't want to see Mom's house foreclosed on? Mom's house. Not the house I inherited. Always Mom's house. Like that was supposed to trigger some Pavlovian response in me. I didn't respond to any of them. I'd made my decision and second-guessing it would only create cracks they could exploit. What I did instead was something I'd been putting off for years. I started therapy. Found a guy who specialized in family dynamics and codependency. Spent sessions unpacking decades of being the designated giver in a family of takers. He helped me see patterns I'd normalized. How I'd been conditioned to equate love with usefulness. How my sister had never been asked to contribute because she'd been elevated beyond such mundane concerns, while I'd never been given the choice to opt out because I was so good at handling things. The backup plan comment hadn't been a joke. It had been the truth, accidentally spoken aloud. One session, my therapist asked what I wanted from all this. Not what I was trying to prove or punish, but what I actually wanted for myself. I realized I wanted peace. I wanted to build a life where my value wasn't measured in payments made or problems solved. I wanted relationships where I was wanted, not needed. Where I could be more than a checkbook with a heartbeat. Update 3. 4 months after I sent that budgeting app link, my sister finally stopped trying. The calls, texts, and intermediaries all went quiet. I found out why through my uncle. She'd sold the house. Not foreclosure, she'd managed to sell it before it got that far. Got $420,000 for it in a competitive offer situation. Paid off the $90,000 mortgage and walked away with $330,000 in cash. More than $250,000 from a house she contributed nothing to. From equity I'd helped create with my money, my labor, my years of showing up. I waited for the rage to hit, the sense of cosmic injustice. It didn't come. Instead, I felt relieved. She'd solved her problem without me. She'd had to make an adult decision and handle it herself. The house was gone, which meant that tie was cut. No more guilting me about Mom's memory. No more leverage. My uncle said she'd moved to Los Angeles, was using the money to actually fund her design business properly. Part of me, the old backup plan part, hoped she'd succeed. The newer part, the one learning boundaries, didn't really care either way. What mattered was that I was free of it. I'm writing this from a different place than where I started, literally and figuratively. I used my $18,000 inheritance plus savings to take a 3-month sabbatical from work. Traveled through Southeast Asia, something I'd always wanted to do, but put off because someone always needed something. Met people who knew nothing about my family role. Who saw me as just a guy traveling, not someone's backup plan or walking wallet. Started dating someone I met in Vietnam, nothing serious yet, but she likes me, for reasons that have nothing to do with my usefulness. I'm back now, returned to work, rebuilding my savings. My credit cards are finally paid off. I have a financial advisor helping me plan for actual retirement, not emergency family funds. My sister and I don't speak. I'm not blocked anymore, I checked, but neither of us has reached out. We're strangers who share DNA and a complicated history. Maybe that'll change someday. Maybe it won't. Some of the extended family has drifted away, unwilling to maintain relationships without me playing my designated role. Others have gotten closer, relationships deepening now that they're not based on transactional family obligations. My uncle and I have dinner monthly. He's become something like a second father, filling space I didn't realize was empty. The hardest part wasn't cutting off my sister or letting go of the money. It was grieving the family I thought I had. The one where love wasn't conditional on compliance, where showing up emotionally counted as much as showing up with a checkbook. That family never existed. Accepting that hurt worse than any of the financial loss. But on the other side of that grief is something unexpected. Possibility. The possibility of building chosen family instead of enduring assigned roles. Of being wanted for who I am instead of needed for what I provide. Someone asked me recently if I regretted how I handled it. If sending that budgeting app link was too harsh, too final. I don't think so. It was the first time I'd ever set a boundary that had teeth. The first time I'd valued my own peace over someone else's comfort. The first time I'd stopped being the backup plan and started being my own priority. My sister called me the backup plan like it was my natural position, my purpose in the family structure. She was wrong. I was never the backup plan. I was the plan they used until it stopped working. And when it stopped working, they discovered they'd never actually needed me. They'd just gotten comfortable with me making things easy. The budgeting app was my way of saying, figure it out yourself. The same thing I'd been doing my whole life while they figured I'd always be there to catch them. I'm still figuring things out. Still learning to recognize red flags in relationships. Still working on not automatically assuming my job is to solve everyone's problems. Still practicing saying no without guilt. But I sleep better now. My bank account is mine, my time is mine, my life is mine. And if that makes me selfish by their definition, I'm okay with that. I'd rather be selfish than useful. I'd rather be free than needed. The backup plan retired. They'll have to find someone else to warm the bench while they play their games. I'm done.